All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here with us and covering our story here in Monterey Park. My name is Ron Bow, B-O-W. I am the city manager of Monterey Park. Today, our elected officials will talk about their efforts to help heal the community and help us recover after the mass shooting that occurred on January 21st. You will hear from our newly appointed Mayor Jose Sanchez, our Mayor Pro Tem Thomas Wong. Preceding after him will be Councilmember Vinh Go, and after him will be Councilmember Henry Lowe, who was the former mayor that time during the incident. And then closing out the elected officials will be Treasurer Amy Lee. After the comments by our elected officials, I would close out the press conference and proceed into questions and answers. But before we do this, I want to bring some context and framing, quite a bit of issues that may be out there. The City of Monterey Park is a full-service city. We have our own police and fire department. We service a population of 61,000 people, approximately. 65% are Asian. Our first responders, police and fire, responded to the mass shooting above and beyond their call of duty. However, due to the sheer magnitude of this event and the headlines that surrounded law enforcement and our police of capturing the responsible individual for this tragic mass shooting, our fire department took a back seat to what they actually did. They were right behind the police department, literally. They triaged the event and got people ready to be transported to the hospitals. The trauma that these first responders experience, in words of our fire chief, Matt Halleck, could cause everlasting effects, leading to an end of a career. I would like to publicly apologize to the fire service community and our very own fire department for not intervening sooner as the dialogue continued throughout the first week. Thank you, Monterey Park Fire Department, for your dedicated service to our community. I would also like to acknowledge the behind-the-scenes work that many of our departments have done during this mass shooting. Our librarian, Diana Garcia, Diana, stand up, who helped us gather the information for the victims and posted it on our website and a dedicated page so that way it's one click away. Our Director of Recreation and Community Services, Robert Geary, who organized Langley Center to be the victim center all last week. Director of Human Resources, Christine Tomikawa. Christine, where are you? There. Her office coordinated the mental wellness coordination for our entire staff, including police and fire, for 327 employees. Director of Finance, Martha Garcia. Martha? Coordinated the funding mechanism currently right now that we are working on with our city treasurer, elected official Amy Lee. Interim Director of Community Development, Jessica Serrano, provided additional administrative support during this time. Our Assistant City Manager, Inez Alvarez, who handled all the press releases and the communication from the city, as we call her, the internal MacGyver. She does it all. I know some of you are probably a lot younger, may not know what MacGyver is, but I appreciate it. And then lastly, our city attorney, who couldn't make it, Carl Berger. He keeps us out of trouble to make sure that we're operating within the law. These are the individuals that are behind the scene that are helping us through this tragic event. This is the executive team, we call it, the ELT team, that have been supporting both of our chiefs all along the way. Lastly, before I turn it over to our mayor, we would like to thank the entire governing body for their leadership during this entire tragic event. Their commitment to the community and the individuals directly impacted by the incident has been unwavering. I'd like to introduce our mayor, Mayor Jose Sanchez.
I want to first start off by thanking the fire department, our police department, our first responders, paramedics, and our city staff who in the last 10 days, because it's only been 10 days since this tragic event, have done so much to keep our city moving forward, but also to make sure that they are responding to the needs of the community. So I thank you, all of you guys, for the work that you do. I'm a parent of 3 daughters. I'm also a teacher in this community, but I'm also mayor now. And so it's been a very difficult 10 days in so many different respects. I had to go to my classroom the next day after the tragic events happened and find a way to be able to communicate with my students, find out the needs that they have, and I was so inspired by them because they were able to write messages of hope, prayers, and they created a banner which is actually on display here in the foyer area of our city hall, and you're more than welcome to check it out. I had to explain to my daughter, who on that Sunday was celebrating her 6th birthday, why we had to cancel her birthday. And if you're a parent, it's one of the hardest things you could potentially do. I can't tell you how many times I cried in the last 10 days with my family, with my students, and with the community. I've attended so many vigils and prayers. Last night I visited and I was praying at Mass at St. Thomas Aquinas, which is my local church in my community. And I was so touched by the over 50 people who attended to pray for the victims. Those are the types of things that are happening. Those are the types of things that we are doing here in Monterey Park to help the community heal. I know we have still more vigils coming, and not just within Monterey Park, but also throughout the city. So I want to thank also the other cities, including San Gabriel, where I was on Sunday, who had a beautiful service. It's obviously going to take a lot of time. It's not going to take 10 days for our community to heal. It might not take 20 or even 300 days for us to heal, because it's a process. I'm still trying to heal from this, and I know that many of us out there are still trying to find ways to come together. But I know that this community is very resilient. I know this community very well. I've been teaching in this community for over 18 years, so I serve a lot of the parents and families in this community now in a different capacity. And I know that they are very resilient. And I know that this community will not be defined by this tragic event. It will not be defined by tragedy. It'll be defined by a lot of the things that are currently happening, the closeness that this tragedy has brought our community together, the prayers of hope that have brought us together. But also, we will come out stronger, both in strength, but also in unity. And so I'm so proud to be part of this community. And I know that if the community is listening, if my students are listening, that they know that we will come out stronger out of this. I thank you for your time. Sí. Para los que, for Spanish speaking, quería decirle a la comunidad que este proceso va a tomar más de 10 días, más de 15 días, más de 20 días, pero vamos a lograr salir adelante, vamos a lograr hacer una comunidad más unida y vamos a lograr hacer una comunidad que siempre miramos a lo delante. Yo sé que todavía es muy temprano para tratar de salir de esta tragedia, pero yo sé que esta comunidad va a salir adelante. Gracias.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez. My name is Thomas Wong. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem here in Monterey Park. And just to join and echo some of the comments that were already made, and first off, to start off by appreciating all of our staff at the city who have been all hands on deck in response to the violent incident and continue to be, right, this continues to be an all-encompassing effort for the city to come together and to work through this together. And I want to call out, again, our public safety first responders, both the police and fire department, and especially the fire department, who responded immediately to provide aid and right, definitely saved lives and help to make sure that the victims, there were not more victims and those that passed away from the shooting. Their efforts were valiant and courageous, and really appreciate the council, and I personally very much appreciate their efforts and their continued efforts to continue to serve our community as our first responder and frontline staff. Also appreciation to the rest of our staff who have been coordinating a lot of efforts to help reach out to the community, to talk to the community, and to keep everything going, as other parts of our staff have been doing full-time work on immediate response and direct response to the incident. And I know that, and we know that going through this together, and particularly for the staff and the frontline staff that have been at the front lines of response to this, is a traumatic experience. And we know that, and we have been working to provide counseling and other services to our staff as well. And we'll continue to support each of them, the chiefs and their staff, and all the city staff who are very close to this community directly, many of them who live here and work, right, obviously work here, but have deep ties to the city of Monterey Park and our surrounding communities and the Asian American community here that has been deeply impacted. So our deep appreciation to all of their efforts in a public way. Also wanted to touch on mental health and wellness. I know we are making these services available to the community, and want to enlist your help as the media to continue to let others in the community know about these resources that are available. Our resource center at the Langley Senior Center continues to stay open. The County Department of Mental Health continues to staff and provide staff for anyone who is in need in our community to seek counseling or just to have a conversation and to help process the events that happened a week and a half ago or so. DMH, Department of Mental Health staff, are there on hand through, I believe, Friday during normal hours for Langley Center to provide counseling services and other services that may be in need. We've also activated and are partnering with the Chinatown Service Center to provide mental health and counseling services at our library right across the street, open during regular business hours as well for at least the next week for anyone who wants to drop in and just wants to talk or process what's been going on. And a lot of these resources are listed on our website as well. If you visit montereypark.ca.gov, there's a link to all these resources on the page at the top of the website. And for any families of the victims who are still seeking support and are in need of resources, if you're listening to this or if you know other victims, we know there are challenges in terms of reaching out to all the victims' families and those who have been impacted directly by this. If you're in need of services, please reach out to the county. The county district attorney's office, victims compensation bureau, they lead the efforts for the direct victims of the shooting in terms of providing resources and services. Please reach out or reach out to the city and we'll make sure you get connected to the right people. And it's been super encouraging to see the community come together. As was mentioned by the mayor, the city hosted a vigil last week, and we've seen a lot of organic community gathering events as well come up over the last week or so. And we know that many are coming up as well, and we hope that the community will continue to come together and find spaces to process this together, to embrace each other, and to show care and concern for each other, and to begin and continue in the healing process that we know will be months, if not years long. I want to reiterate that the city is committed, and the city council and myself are completely committed to leading this process and to helping our community heal and find some normalcy in the days and weeks to come as well. But we also want to encourage folks in the community and our surrounding communities to continue to come to Monterey Park. We want to reassure everyone that the community is safe, despite what happened a week and a half ago. Our police officers, first responders, our partners in the region continue to provide the resources to keep our community safe and make sure that it is safe, and we're doing everything that we can to reassure everyone in our community that it is safe to go out and safe to patronize our restaurants and to come and support the community here. And we made a point to go to the council members and many others in the city are making it a point to go to other Lunar New Year events in the region to remind people that it is okay to celebrate while we still mourn and share in our grief together. This is still an important time as we're still celebrating Lunar New Year in many Asian American communities, Asian communities in the region, that it's still important and very important for us to gather together with loved ones, with our families, friends, to share with each other, to process together, and to continue to celebrate Lunar New Year by coming together and grieving together and healing together. And to celebrate and look forward to what's to come in the new year ahead. So with that last kind of plug, want to encourage and urge folks. Many of our businesses consider Lunar New Year to be essentially a Black Friday event where we're going to come. Many Asian businesses get into the black in terms of their finances and how they're doing as a business during the Lunar New Year holiday. So I want to encourage everyone to continue to come to Monterey Park and come to our area businesses to support them, especially during this difficult time. So with that, I'll pass it on to Councilmember Vingo.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you attending. And as we move in the last 10 days, move from our memorial to our healing process to our recovery process, I just want to acknowledge the folks behind me, the staff, from police to fire, and overall our City Hall staff for being there for the community. Now, if it was chaotic for you guys, it was chaotic times 10 for staff. In the city of 61,000, where we have been fairly quiet, something tragic like this happens, and they banded together and worked with the resources that was available with the county, the state, and the federal government in ensuring that there was safety to all in the community, and also to address the concerns of every one of you who have been here. So in terms of memorial, we've had a number of visuals, and that will continue for many, many other weeks for the families who continue to have them. Temples, churches in the community, and community services will provide that. In terms of healing, as some of our council members have mentioned, we have ignited or started a counseling right here across at the Bruggemeyer Library for services, for multilingual speakers, for counseling, therapeutic, and we also have worked with the county to have services provided at the Langley Center, which was the resource center for victims last week, as you may recall. In terms of recovery, we have a number of processes and steps that we're ongoing, and that can be found at the Monterey Park City website. And our city manager, Ron, will have more resources to that. As I stand here, I reflect on being a member of this community for 40-something years. You know, we've been through a lot in this community, but nothing like this. And you talk about stuff that hits you. Well, it hit us, and it hit us hard. But we have one of two choices. You can be hit harder and not get up from this, or you can recover. And I know from this community that we are a resilient bunch. We're gonna get back up, and we're gonna recover, because this community will continue. As we heal and recover, we will grow, and we will support each other and make this community even better. And we have great folks behind me who will ensure that happens. So please remember, continue to support our community. We're blessed by the overwhelming support. And as time grows, as time continues, we're gonna need all your help in ensuring that our community stand united. and stay resilient. Thank you.
Hello, friends. Good to see many of you again. And I want to also just thank all of you for covering this tragedy and also for talking to us, to reporting the news. I want to thank my colleagues for giving an update about the efforts we are doing to help those who still need counseling, as well as the work we'll be doing as we plot the path forward for recovery. I think as I've given many interviews, this past week, as I've said before, our community is in shock, still reeling, trying to make sense of what has occurred and why it happened. And I think that one way that I think about and I reflect is that, this tragedy, showed probably the worst in our collective humanity. Again, a crazed gunman who committed a heinous violent act for reasons we may never know. But we also saw, I think, the best in our collective humanity. Our police who responded within 3 minutes to the first call. Our fire and paramedic who provided valuable aid at the location. And also the outpouring of support from people from around the world, those who came to our vigils, those who are holding vigils, those who have asked, how can we help move from this tragedy? The folks behind us who continue to provide services and run the city, and this is a medium-sized city, and as such, our resources are that of a medium-sized city, and yet, if there are heroes, it is everyday people, the people behind us, and all of you for, again, being our partners for covering this. And we hope that months from now, you'll check in on us to see how we're doing. I think the human interest story, it is important to see how a community like ours, begins the path to recovery. And I'll also say this, that, probably something that I like to share as anecdotal about, how we are so blessed with the community that we have is this past Saturday at our library across the street, we held a free legal clinic. And this is a clinic that we did normally year after year, but because of the pandemic, we could not do it because of COVID. And I know that in the wake of the tragedy, there was discussion. I know that our librarian had that, thank you, discussion about, do we move forward? Is it the right thing to do? And I'm glad we did move forward because I stopped by some of my other colleagues, and I will tell you how incredibly happy I was to see 50 volunteers, lawyers and law students, who showed up, and the line of people who wanted to come for legal advice. To me, that demonstrated that, our community was not going to let this tragedy stop us, that we're going to continue to do what our community expects of us. And for people who, volunteered, thank you so much for believing in Monterey Park, for believing in this community. I had one individual, she came up, she, of course, was in tears about what had happened because although she lived in the neighboring city, like many of us, she has friends, family here, and she, says she wished she could do more. And I said, no, you are doing a lot. You are here on an early Saturday morning volunteering your time as an attorney to people in the community who are in need. And I think that is a great human interest story. And so I will say this is that, the story is not over for Monterey Park. And we will not let this tragedy be what defines us. It may punctuate our current history, but I assure you more to come, the best is to come, and that we will be resilient. And yes, we will still take this time to mourn, we'll take this time to recover, but we will take action as a community, as well as a community that's part of a nation that is asking itself, how could it be? Here we are at the end of January, and we've had 40 mass shooting incidents. And I don't know about you, but if this trend holds, then who knows what the number will be by the end of the year. And so this is a question that our community, our nation needs to have. But for today, thank you for covering the Monterey Park story and for being there with us. We hope that you will continue to be with us during our journey. Thank you so much, and I believe I will invite our city treasurer, Ms. Lee. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Lee. I'm the city treasurer of Monterey Park. We are still very much in the recovery process, and it's a slow and difficult process. I want to reassure the city and the residents of Monterey Park that we will get through this together. Not only there was a very significant human cost to this tragedy, but along there is a financial cost. And I want to rest assured and let you know that my department, Martha Garcia, Director of Finance, we are going to make sure that the city's finances are in order, that we have the resources and finances available. We will be seeking out resources from state, county, and federal levels to help our city recover. I do thank everyone at the county, state, and federal level who have extended their resources to us, and we will be seeking that to help the city recover. Do you have anything to add? Okay. It takes time. It's not going to be an easy road, but we'll get there together. And rest assured, if you have any questions about the finances, please reach out to us. We are starting a fund for the people that have been, and the communities that have been impacted by this tragedy, and we're working on that. So we'll have more answers in the days ahead. Do not be afraid. And I know that's very difficult to tell you right now, but we all have to take one step forward, 1 foot at a time, and we'll get there. Thank you. Thank you for coming and supporting us.
Thank you, elected officials. I also want to recognize our Director of Public Works, Sean Igo. He's part of our executive team, and he provided a lot of support out there in the streets and the infrastructure during this mass shooting. You know, what I would say is in this recovery, our process is the quicker we can get back to some normalcy is probably the best for all of us. Get back into our lives somewhat and be able to move forward. We're grateful for the outgoing support and pouring of, just help out there. We are stronger with you all by our side, and we appreciate everything. I also want to just provide a shout out to all of you. Thank you for coming in such a late notice. You responded well, and we appreciate it. This is our story. This continues to be the mantra of recovering and getting to where we need to be, normalcy. We are strong. We stand strong. We are Monterey Park strong. I will now open up for questions and answers, and if we could, just be a little bit courtesy to your colleagues. Press conferences that I've seen, everybody's running over each other and trying to get a question in. I know that's normalcy for you all, but it's not normalcy for us. So we'll take one question at a time. Questions?
Can you explain to us what City Council is voting on tonight regarding the emergency declaration and so forth?
Yeah, I'll take that question real quick. There are many funding organizations out there that's trying to raise money for the victims and relatives of the victims. Tonight, I think people that want to donate are maybe a little bit hesitant in donating to some organizations. They feel much more comfortable donating to the City of Monterey Park. We, the city, cannot do that legally. We have to create an entity, and that is what we're going to be talking about tonight, an entity that is outside of the City of Monterey Park that we do have involvement in. And it involves an advisory committee and some of our finance personnel, Martha Garcia, our treasurer, Amy Lee. So there'll be a lot of discussion by council. They'll have a lot of input tonight, and we'll decide what the outcome is. But that's what it's about tonight. Next question.
Two questions. So Jose Sanchez is the new mayor. And what is Henry Lowe's current title, just so we have that correct for reporting?
Yes.
Council member.
Councilman.
Yes.
And when did that switch happen?
Wednesday.
everything went by so fast. We did it just nonchalantly and just did it. It happened on Wednesday. Yes. It's a rotating mayor position, and the term ended at that time.
Totally get it. And I just wanted to get the fire chief's reaction to how you started this press conference. If the fire chief would be willing to talk about how your EMTs, how your firefighters are doing, and what your reaction is to what the city manager had to say.
Yeah. Our fire chief would be more than happy to entertain that question.
To adjust this up a little bit, sorry. I'm going to tip it over, I don't know. Well, first I'll say that I appreciate all of you being here, and I appreciate the remarks from the city manager. Yeah. Sorry. It's been my whole life. Don't make it exaggerated. You know, I'll say this, and I've said this to my firefighters and paramedics, there's no playbook for this. And, you know, in my time here as in the fire department, my 3 years as a fire chief, we've gone through a lot as a fire department, as a city, as a team. And, you know, to say that a event like this would never hit Monterey Park, I could honestly say last Saturday I would never have thought that. And here we are today, 10 days later, going through the aftermath of lives lost, lives impacted, and moving forward. And in those days following the incident, you know, I can say, and I don't think the city manager would object, our guys felt like they didn't exist. And that's not to say we're any different than law enforcement. They were there right before us, clearing the scene. You know, he's my partner in public safety. And we do this together. This is a team effort. But so much focus was on the suspect and making sure the community felt safe. And I understood that. But as the days progressed, they just felt like the 9 lives they saved that night, they had nothing to do with it. And this is an emotional toll, not just on law enforcement, on other city staff in our community. It was on us too. And I've heard often that this is our job. This is what we do. This is what we sign up for. And I get that, but in the same sense, the amount of training that we have done and we do for these types of events, we never did that when I first got hired. And now we're doing that on a regular basis. And now it happened. And you know, nothing can prepare you for what you witness when you walk into a scene like that. And for what they witnessed and what they went through, you know, I have several paramedics that aren't back to work. And I don't know if they're going to come back to work. And I get emotional. Because I care about each and every one of them. And I care about each and every employee in this city, and I care about each and every resident in this community. And lives were impacted, not just in the community, but in our own home, within these walls. And so that recognition and that acknowledgement that the fire department had a role in this, I think is very important for the healing process for my personnel, in that they made a difference that night. And that's what the city manager was referring to, and I appreciate the opportunity to be before you to kind of explain that, because you know, tomorrow's a new day, and they're, like I said, we have several that are not doing well, but we have some that are doing better than they were yesterday, and I'm thankful for that.
I know you shared this, but how many members of your department responded?
Well, that night we had 18 members from my department. However, we had more than a dozen from my surrounding partners to assist with that. The call like that overwhelms any department, small department's resources, so we rely on our automatic aid. So we had other departments to assist with the transport of all the patients.
And how big is the total department?
51.
So if you had 18 respond and you end up losing some because of this incident, that obviously would take a toll on what you guys are asked to do every day.
Absolutely, and I'll say this to that. You know, that night, calls kept coming in. And you know, our doors don't close. And in the hours post-incident, we ran, I think, 2 full cardiac arrest calls, the same crew that responded to this incident. So the emotional impact is going to be for quite some time. I hope and I pray that I don't lose anybody from this. And the support that we have in place for our first responders through the city, through our own network of fire departments, peer support, has been overwhelming. And our we work a 48-hour shift, and they went off duty that Monday morning. and they came back to work on Friday of last week. And we had agency apparatus from Pasadena all around running our calls, so I could put that entire shift off for the morning to go through counseling and just talk it through as a group and individually, and that's helped. And there is no magic bullet that's going to fix this. There's no quick fix. It's going to be time, and time and a little bit of distance. And we'll get there, I hope, with the right resources and the support from the city and the community and the surrounding departments. I'm sorry, Matt, M-A-T-T, and last name's Hallock, H-A-L-L-O-C-K.
I'm curious a little bit more on the financial aspect of this. You spoke of the toll that it's taken on the city. Can you elaborate on some of the impact and what specifically you mean by that? And then also that victims fund, how would people access that and get resources from it?
Thank you. Good question. Those are all in the process right now. We are just getting our feet wet, and we're trying to figure that through. But in terms of finances, there are a lot of costs because we have a lot of these officers and police officers and fire department that have worked overtime. They've been up nonstop, especially this last 10 days. So there are costs involved. For the city, we are going to try to recoup that cost. And so we're going to try to make sure that our city is financially stable and we can move forward from that. In terms of the fund, that is something in progress. They're voting on it this evening, and we're going to have protocols in place. We're going to have a committee, and we're going to get through that and see what protocols are needed and how we're going to distribute the money. That's what we have so far.
Can you share with maybe some of the organizations you reached out to distribute to go into those funds?
We are partnering. They're going to be deciding tonight on the different organizations that they have partnered with. So that's going to be something that's going to be discussed shortly.
Sure.
Can we talk about some of the resources that are available to the people? I know that there's suicide preventions and things like that, but some of the people are elderly. They may not feel comfortable going to the library or going to Langley. Are there at-home services, Skype or Zoom or phone services in different languages available for that?
We'll have that covered right now. But there are resources available. If they called the city, I'm sure we could get the city to provide their services either through Zoom or in person. Those are good suggestions.
Can you take that question? I think Councilmember Lowe, do you want to?
Well,
Okay.
Just real brief. I think some of you may have covered the press conference that was in front of Chinatown Service Center last week. But that's actually a really good question you asked, because you're right. When we talk about mental health issues, there has to be the linguistic and cultural competencies as well. And so I know that one of the things that Chinatown Service Center acknowledges is that sometimes you have to think out of the box, and just because you have the service doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, I'll go down to the clinic. And that does actually require active outreach. In other words, if someone is isolated at home or for whatever reason has challenges of transportation, then yes, it requires creativity to go seek out that person who may need assistance and present this in a nuanced and culturally sensitive way. And I think that that's probably the reality about how do we deliver those services. And probably, I would imagine, when we talk about counseling, mental health services, those are the cultural nuances that we need to make sure that the institutions, the organizations that are here to help partner with us, that they are aware and we're able to craft a policy that, again, is respectful of those nuances I mentioned. So,
How do you provide that, though? You're saying, yes, it's open, we're here for you, but if they don't come to you,
Right.
they don't get the service.
Right. Well, and again, I think that's where the example I gave, like Chinatown Service Center, they have caseworkers, and I think that this is where these caseworkers, hopefully in partnership with the other coalition, and again, it's not just one CBO, but it's a coalition of CBOs with the county, as well as State Office of Emergency Services, to make sure that, yeah, to identify and then to have a policy that allows them to reach out. And I see that my colleague wants to say something. And okay, well, sure, come on. So Councilmember Vin also sits on the board of Chinatown Service Center, and so he could probably also add to and articulate better than I can.
That's a great question. In the Asian community, seeking counseling is not prevalent. So what CSC or Chinatown Service Center has been able to do is work with the school communities, also employers, so that they can provide services. So if an individual who needs help doesn't come to us for help, their family members can get the help for them. We have clinics in the Monterey Park, Alhambra, in Chinatown. They're actually open out at the library. So if someone wants to just talk to us, talk to the center, they can call in and they will set up Zoom meetings. It'll be very private. They can go to our clinic, private settings, and if they're okay, they can actually walk into the library, and that's more public access. You can see who they are, but the counselings are done privately. I hope that answers your question.
Hello, my name is Emily Wu Chuang, and I'm a mental health advocate. I also have worked with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, for over 9 years. I facilitate support groups and classes for them.
Excuse me, this is a press conference, and we're in.
I wanted to ask, what is the City of Monterey Park doing with regards to raising awareness with mental health? So Henry Lowe was just talking right now about how, there's people who isolate. So how do we?
So we can answer that question, and I appreciate the question. As you know, every city, everywhere has dealt with the pandemic. During the pandemic, we've learned to be very nimble and mobile. We have the ability to utilize resources that we have in the city to go out to the community, to people that need this service. We have counseling services available to us that we can bring to them. We have that. As long as we have the individual's names, phone numbers, address, we can go to them. So it's not a problem. It's not a problem that people think that it is a problem, because we've been doing this. We provide our seniors mobile service by bringing them meals. During the trauma center that was at Langley Center, we actually closed that center to our seniors that couldn't have meals. We went out and delivered meals to them at the same time we were treating victims. So to think it's a problem, it's not a problem here in City Monterey Park, because we're used to being nimble and agile. We can adjust and we can make things happen in the city when you are full service. Let me remind you, we are a full service city, okay? So we can do that. There's nothing that this city can't do, and that's the reason why we're strong. Next question. Yes, sir.
Any estimate on how much money is poured in through donations from victims, from different people, for the victims? Is there any number on that?
We understand right now that there is a fund out there that's probably hovering around $1 million. We have not set this mechanism up yet, and most likely what will happen is we will probably start collecting money along the way. I wouldn't say that it'll be $1 million. I have no idea. But that is the highest fundraiser GoFundMe that I'm aware of at this point in time. It's hovering around $1 million.
Can you talk about, I know you answered that financial question, but just a little bit more specifically, like some of the finances that you're dealing with right now unexpected to this incident that are costing the city lots of money?
Obviously, first responders, overtime, backfilling personnel to do work. We also have some of our own personnel that's not safety, that may be out because of the trauma of the incident. I will also remind everybody is we have a lot of employees that live in the city, that are connected, that have relatives or friend that is connected to the dance studio. So they are traumatized just as much. And so we have backfilling of those employees. We have mental wellness counselors that are actually taking care of a lot of our employees. At this point in time, not only besides taking care of the community, as our elected officials have said. We are worried about our employees. You heard from the chief of fire about what he and his personnel are dealing with. We also have the rest of the employees in the city of Monterey Park that we're dealing with. Some additional information, if you're looking to understand a little bit better what the city of Monterey Park is doing tonight, there is a staff report on our website that you can get through the website, and it'll actually talk about what we're trying to get approved tonight. It has a lot of mechanisms in there, and it'll allow you to have a better idea. Next question.
Lastly for me, just the legal advice point that I know there was a legal fair of some kind this weekend. Moving forward, if people do want to reach out to the city, is there any assistance for them for legal avenues if they were to pursue?
If I'm not mistaken, our library had some pro bono attorneys on site, and they were able to provide that law advice. That is still available to anyone that needs it. We can direct them in that direction, but that's how we would deal with it.
So contact the library or contact?
You can contact the City of Monterey Park, 307-1255. That is the CMO's office right now, and we're the collector of a lot of the information, and we'll distribute it to the right personnel. Any other questions?
Yeah, for the chief of police, there has been a lot of calls to let people in the community come into normalcy. I would like to see, to ask the chief, if on the deployment of the policemen personnel, you have seen more movement in the streets, or still see a very quiet and not too common movement on the streets as used to be?
Directly after the incident, things were very quiet. People stayed inside. There was a sense of trauma that had affected everybody, so people tend to want to stay someplace where they're comfortable and they're safe, which is typically their residence. Our officers were on duty from that point on, and we supplemented our force with the agencies around us who were available to help us. We're starting to see the community kind of get back to what it was, and the officers on the street are getting out and walking around. They're getting out and talking to groups and just kind of waving the flag, if you will. They're out in their black and whites and they're making themselves present. The whole idea behind that is to be there visually, but also to allow the community to ask questions, to allow the officers to engage one-on-one. And that is what small communities are all about. That's what a small police department is all about. Connecting with the community, creating transparency, having them feel like they can trust us, and our officers are dedicated to making sure that they're safe. So we're starting to see things come back.
Any, looking back, any thought about this information that was done, that it took 5 hours to notify the community that there was a man with a gun in the loose?
I've learned through this process that the press and the public, they want accurate information. And if we give out inaccurate information, it doesn't serve anybody's purpose. It breaks down that transparency with the community, it breaks down the trust, and I can tell you from being on scene, the information that we had was very limited. And through our partnerships with the outside agencies, the Sheriff's Department, the FBI, and some of the other agencies, we were slowly able to mine information that was quality to get it out to the public. We also have to balance our law enforcement resources and our capability to take the suspect into custody with the need to get the information out. And that was a discussion that we had with the Sheriff's Department from the moment the incident occurred. I feel pretty confident that we got the information out quickly, but again, it needed to be quality information. And it was the middle of the night. And the information that we had got out to law enforcement partners, and our investigation kicked off very quickly and obviously led to our suspect being, taken into custody in Torrance. So I feel pretty confident about the information.
All right. If there's no more questions, we'll stay around if you want to talk to us personally. But thank you so much. for being here. I know there's many stories out there that you want to cover, so thank you. We appreciate it.